Falcon fans, and of course, good old Falcon fans. You already know what it is. You already know what to do. One time for the fan, we are back. Apple Podcast, Spotify Podcast, Amazon Podcast, and everywhere else you can pretty much find us. One time for the fan, we are here talking Atlanta Falcons football with T. Will. One time for the fan for my ATL Sports. How's everything going with you, sir?
Everything is going well, Jack. How is everything going with you?
Hey man, I must say, man, everything is blessed over here. The snow started to melt away, and of course, my area got affected by a little short power outage for about 5 or 6 hours the other night. So everything's back to normal over here. But everything's good in my world, man. No Falcons football this weekend in the playoffs. Kind of disappointing to see other teams play.
It is.
Knowing a couple months ago we had the opportunity to be in this position, but hey, it's all right. It's all right. We'll get through. Falcons fans, hit that like, hit that share, hit that subscribe button. T. Will, how is everything going with For My ATL Sports before we start the show? Terry's always working out here on and off air. So big shout out to everybody over there with For My ATL Sports. Big shout out to the beer gang. Big shout out to the whole crew. You guys are once again doing some amazing work. So how's everything with former ATL Sports? And of course, let everybody know where they can find you too as well, outside of One Time for the Fan.
Well, thank you for that, Jack. Hey man, we're working hard. Look, we're trying to be like One Time for the Fan, right? I gotta represent. I started my roots here, so I definitely want to keep the standard. What's Raheem say? The standard is the standard. I want to keep the standard going. You can hey, look we've got Beard Gang, which we podcast with Monday morning, Wednesday morning, and Thursday morning. Also started a partnership with Debo Vibes where we do shows Tuesday morning and Friday morning right now at 8. And also going to start a Friday evening series, which is kind of more interview focused, kind of specialty series focused on various subjects, and sometimes it's just an interview, but we are trying to do interesting things, man, and stay relevant. And of course, like I say, man, represent for One Time for the Fans. So thank you for that. I'll go ahead and drop the post as to where you guys can find me. And there it is. Again, that is For My ATL Sports 1 on YouTube, the number 4 My ATL Sports 1 on YouTube. The number 4 My ATL Sports, the number 1 on YouTube. There you go. Got that out of the way. So, Jack, let's talk about these Falcons, man. Just made a move yesterday. Everybody's excited about it. Well, some folks are excited about it. I think most folks are excited about it. I think most folks feel like it needed to be done. And that was Mr. Jimmy Lake is no longer the defensive coordinator of the Falcons. What are your thoughts on it? What say you? Talk to me. What's going on, Jack?
Well, of course, the other day, we had our wasn't breakfast with One Time for the Fan, more like lunch with One Time for the Fan. But we got a chance to talk some Falcons football with, of course, me, of course, yourself, and Kerry and A1. So it was great to talk some Falcons football there. But we mentioned the comments from Raheem earlier this week about evaluating the team next week, and they had to go through the evaluation process of who's staying, who's going, all that other type of stuff. They never really mentioned much about the coaching staff and the defensive coordinator, about them making any moves or any adjustments. Fans started to wonder about, okay, well, maybe they're waiting for Terry to talk on Thursday, because Raheem had spoke on, I believe it was Monday, right? Monday or Tuesday?
Yeah, I think Monday. I think it was Monday.
So, of course, when it got down to Thursday now, and Terry had to speak with the media and the Falcon fan base, fans started to wonder, well, why is Terry talking Thursday? Because, of course, Terry's probably going to be looking for an extension too soon here. So fans wanted to know, what is the outlook of the 2024 and the 2025 season and so forth. And they tried to, give us a little bit of information of what they're getting ready to do in the offseason. But Terry didn't mention anything about Jimmy Lake either as well. It was kind of that same answer like Raheem, play it by the book and go over the evaluating next week type of answer. Then, of course, the snow hit Friday. So the joke was for some of the Falcon fans, well, Jimmy Lake can't get to the office on Friday because of the snow, so they're not going to fire him then. But we made a joke about it on One Time for the Fan that the Falcons technically don't really stop working on the weekends, right? We've seen them do moves in the past on weekends too as well. And sure enough, you get to Saturday, afternoon or so, and you find out that Jimmy Lake and Jay Rogers, defensive line coach, is not going to be here going forward in 2025.
Yeah.
You hear the fans start to chatter about, well, why did they wait this long? And, was this part of the evaluating process between Raheem and Terry for the coaching staff? Is Zach Robinson next? So there's a lot of questions, fans had. But, of course, one of the biggest questions the fans had was who was going to be the next defensive coordinator here in and, of course, there's some names that fans have been throwing out left and right over the past couple of hours. Steve Wilkes seems to be a name that a lot of fans want to see here in Atlanta. Of course, his connection to Raheem too as well, being here at camp last year. Steve Wilkes. Jeff Ulbrich is a name to also walk as well, a good friend of Raheem. Also looking for a coaching position here in Atlanta, not in Atlanta, in the NFL, and probably a head coaching job. You never know what Jeff Ulbrich can end up. Robert Saleh is a name that a lot of Falcon fans are talking about too as well. And of course, here on One Time for the Fan, we're going to keep you guys entertained every step of the way. Keep you guys informed about what the Falcons are going to be doing during this defensive coordinator search. But I just want the Falcons to bring in a guy who doesn't have the slow start like what Jimmy Lake had this season, right? You can't bring in a guy next season that Falcon fans are, once again, high expectations. Hey, man, this defensive coordinator is going to come here and change the scheme. He's going to make Grady do this, and he's going to get Arnold Ebiketie to do this. And you come out week 1, week 2, and you only have, half a sack. You get to week 5, week 6, you don't have any interceptions. You're back of the pack and, defensive ranking numbers. You don't want that type of defense next year. So I just need to get a guy in the building that can turn some things around. Slow start for the defense this year, but of course, after the bye, they did pick it up. And Jimmy Lake's probably going to get a job somewhere else in the NFL, or he might just go back to college, but he won't be here in Atlanta for 2025. So just my thoughts on that. It's, it's kind of disappointing where Ryan Nielsen kind of, had us the season before, didn't make the playoffs. I mean, it's kind of disappointing there too as well. But where Ryan Nielsen had us the season before to where Jimmy Lake came in and took over after, I mean, switching it up to the 3-4 and then, going into the bye, and apparently those, talks behind the scenes that Raheem is now taking over more of the defensive calls. And you just need to see a guy that can come in here and just get the job done. But the cool thing about it is for the Atlanta Falcons, I mean, you have a nice, flashy defense for a defensive coordinator to look at. It's actually a decent defense that I know you have some missing pieces that it's not going to be here in 2025. Some pieces to the puzzle you have to fill. But, of course, a new defensive coordinator is going to come here and fix that. You're going to have the free agency. You're going to have the draft. You still got Ebiketie here. You still got Grady here. You still got Jesse Bates here. You got A.J. Terrell here. Caden Ellis here. So, you got some guys that you can look at on your defense and say, okay, I can build around this. We wasn't the worst defense in the NFL like that. We wasn't that bad. We was down near the bottom of the pack, but we wasn't bad. But of course, the Atlanta Falcons, just need to get a guy in the building that the players can respond to. As you can see, with Jimmy Lake out the door in 1 year, and it wasn't like a Ryan Nielsen type thing where, Arthur Smith's gone and they're bringing in a new head coach and Ryan Nielsen will do a good job. This is, them pretty much telling Jimmy Lake, hey, bring your parking pass. So for Falcon fans, it's going to be a new defense here in Atlanta. Don't know if the new defensive coordinator is going to come here and keep the 3-4. I don't think a lot of players responded well to the 3-4 this year. But then again, you bring the right guys into the building that can, fit that scheme. It's going to work out for you. But Terry, just your thoughts, man, on the Falcons, parting ways with defensive coordinator Jimmy Lake. And, of course, defensive line coach Jay Rogers, a name that we haven't mentioned much here on One Time for the Fan because we put a lot of pressure on Jimmy Lake of course, because he is the DC. But defensive line coach Jay Rogers is out the building. He's also familiar with a lot of players on this staff too as well. So just your thoughts on that, man. I know you had a couple days to probably chop it up and talk about it since it's been out here. I mean, a couple hours to chop it up and talk about it with some other Falcon fans. But Terry, what you got here for one time for the fan?
I think the move needed to happen. I just think he kind of lost the confidence of the players. And look, I can't speak for the players. That's just what I saw in body language and just watching them. I know he certainly lost the confidence of the city. And I just think, and again, hey, good luck to him. That doesn't mean that he can't rebound. America loves second chances. That doesn't mean that you can't go somewhere else and better your craft and get better at it. You know what I mean? So, good luck to Mr. Jimmy Lake and his future endeavors. It just didn't work out here. As far as the new candidate, I would love to have Steve Wilks up in here. Steve Wilks is seems to me to always make the best out of what he has. Right? Can turn lemons into lemonade. Very good defensive coordinator. Very smart defensive coordinator. And he would be my first pick. I don't think you're going to get Robert Saleh because I think the 49ers want him. I know they're interviewing other folks, but I promise you, as soon as they get to whatever the quota is for the interviews that they have, they're going to come back and make Robert Saleh an offer. And looking at who they have over on defense, I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but I would say, that could be his first choice. So, I'm okay with Robert Saleh. I'm okay with Steve Wilks. I'm okay with getting anybody in here who can get the most out of this defense, and that includes a defensive line coach who nobody's talking about. But,
I think that's going to come in with your DC. Don't want to cut you off there, but I think your DC is going to be bringing you your new defensive line coach. That's a big part. That was a big factor in why, we couldn't get to the quarterback this year. Earlier in the season, that front three, that front four, they wasn't pushing. They wasn't getting to the quarterback. I mean, they were doing their job up until the point when it was given to the quarterback, just couldn't get it done. I mean, you saw how many sacks we had the first couple of weeks in the year and, our pressure rates and everything. So it's kind of difficult right there. But, yeah, Terry, I got you.
Yeah. I mean, no worries. But, just looking forward to it, man. Excited about this offense. Looks like the Bucks are leading Washington 3-0 right now. So hopefully the Bucks lose tonight. Yes, I'm hating on the Bucks because they're NFC South rivals and whatever. I don't want them to advance. But yeah, I'm excited, man. It was what we saw with Penix and that offense, man. I am excited for what we can do next season. I am excited. I am chomping at the bits. I'm just wondering, what moves we're going to make, who we're going to add, who we're not going to keep, and, just what moves we can make from a salary cap perspective to facilitate that. But like I say, man, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, say what you will about this season. There were exciting moments. You could say that, hey, we should have made the playoffs. But, I mean, it's a game of inches, right? If Saquon doesn't drop that pass, we're probably not having this conversation anyway, right? It's a game of inches. You have to take advantage of it. But that's a hallmark of a mature team, right? That's a hallmark of a winning culture. Look, winning teams beat up on teams they should beat. So winning teams go into New Orleans and beat them. No excuses, right? Winning teams don't let the Chargers come in here and beat us. They beat them. But that's a lesson that you have to learn. That's a culture that you have to build. Who's the coach of the Lions? I forget his name.
Dan Campbell.
Dan Campbell. When Dan Campbell came in his first year, he was 3 and whatever. It took them 3 years to get to where they are, right? They had to build it piece by piece, block by block, and now they have ascended to that point. I don't know where they're going to go, but they've built that program up. And that's what, Raheem was trying to do. The Falcons, they had some good moments, right? They had some good moments. They had some not so good moments. But I think the future is bright. I really do.
We have more not so good moments than good moments this season, as you can see.
Well, I mean, look, you could say that again, man. This is a game of inches. If Duke kicks that field goal, maybe it's a different story. If we're able to get 5 more yards and Patterson can kick that field goal, maybe it's a different story. Maybe our defense doesn't give up because they got something to play for, and we win that game, right? I mean, look at if we win both coin tosses, maybe we win those games, right? It's again, it's a game of inches. Yes, we lost. Yes, there were some bad decisions made, but at the end of the day, the margin for error is so small, and the margin between success and failure is so small. So,
well, we did mention here earlier on One Time for the Fan, of course, the Falcons will now be in the market for a defensive coordinator. And some of the names that Falcon fans are throwing out there: Jeff Ulbrich, Robert Saleh, some of the coaches I think fans would definitely respect as a defensive coordinator here in Atlanta. Fans, I don't think respected Jimmy Lake. Did you get that feeling, Terry, that when Jimmy Lake was hired, from the moment he was hired, it was like, oh yeah, we got our defensive coordinator, that's our guy? Or was it more like, wait, why do we bring this guy in?
Yeah, it was more like, who's this guy?
Yeah, that's the feeling that I got here in Atlanta. Even when Dan Quinn was here and he had his staff and Arthur Smith was here, and it's like who is Jimmy Lake compared to the other candidates that you could have put out here for the Falcons fan base to see a different style defense? I mean, big shout out to Clint Goss too as well from Sports Illustrated, because about 2 hours ago he just cut a piece on who the Falcons defensive coordinator could come down to. And he's already writing about it. Of course, a lot of people in the media is already talking about it, but he's mentioning here that the top candidates that he thinks from covering Sports Illustrated for the Atlanta Falcons here, that Raheem Morris should look into is Jeff Ulbrich, a name that we just mentioned right there. And I want to go ahead and scroll down here to the bottom. He has Steve Wilks too as well.
Yeah.
So he said next on the list should be Steve Wilks. Wilks is a longtime respected secondary coach, known for his leading heavy blitz rates and pre and post snap coverage disguises. Unfortunately, during the most recent stint in San Francisco in 2023, he ran the 49ers system instead of his own. So I think with Raheem, he'll probably have a little bit more flexibility of doing what he wants with his own defense down here if he is hired. But then again, both of those guys are two buddies of Raheem Morris. We talked about Steve Wilks being here at camp last year and fans wondering, why is Steve Wilks here? Like, what's the point of that? And you can see throughout the season, it was just pretty much him just being at camp, hanging out with Raheem, checking out the Falcons. But now as you look a year later from that moment, you have a defensive coordinator position opening. Steve Wilks, Falcon fans say, hey, that could be a good fit. I know if Steve Wilks get hired here, I think Falcon fans would definitely agree that would be a good hire. But Jeff Ulbrich would also be a good hire too as well. It's just where this defense wants to go. Fans are expecting Jeff Ulbrich, I'm guessing, because he's real close to Raheem. I guess that buddy system. So you never know where it's going to go. But I'm just glad to see that this week, Terry, I think we're going to get a lot of news about who the defensive coordinator could possibly be, or the candidate search is going to be underway starting from probably Monday, Tuesday, because the Falcons are going to get after it. Of course, getting rid of Jimmy Lake on your day off on Saturday. How you get fired on your day off?
How you get fired on your day off? How did you get fired on
Jimmy Lake getting fired on his day off? But for Falcon fans, feel good about, the Falcons are not only listening to the fans, but I think they're listening to themselves. If we can see some of these things that are a problem, I'm sure the Falcons can see some of these things that are a problem. I know the Falcons are sitting here listening to One Time for the Fan like, oh, yeah, Jack and Terry, they definitely let them guys come run the team. No. We're just talking the same thing a lot of other fans talk about, right? And there's a couple players, we don't want to mention them now, but there's a couple players that I think Falcon fans don't want to see on this team next year too. And going off of player performance from this season, I'm sure the Falcons can look next year and say, hey, this guy didn't really cut it this year. We might need to go ahead and go with a different option next season. If I'm saying it, Terry's saying it, Carrie's saying it. Oh, big shout out to Carrie, big shout out to Bodie.
Carrie, Bodie, what's going on?
Big shout out to everybody in the chat. But if I'm saying it, DSGB Hall has said it, Tyreek Johnson has said it, because, there's 53 players on the roster. You guys know the coaches too as well. It's not like there's 1,000 people in the room, right? We can talk about these players all day. We talk about these coaches all day. But, this offseason, you're going to hear this type of news. I'm glad it happened, in the first week after us being eliminated. that they're already starting to make moves in-house, because this Monday, tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is really starting to get into your off season. To know that you can get the jump on a couple other teams to go start doing your interview process. Because there are some teams right now, from the Colts to the Jags to the Titans to the Commanders to the Eagles, they haven't let go of their coordinators yet. They haven't started their search yet, right? So it's good that the Falcons can get the jump on some of these candidates. And of course, Raheem, with that buddy system, I'm sure he's going to call somebody, that will definitely want to work with Raheem. He's a really good players coach. He's a coach's coach. But it's time to flip the script here in Atlanta, on defense and offense. You saw a team today who will be playing next year. Matter of fact, you're seeing two teams right now who will be playing next year. We play the Commanders, and of course, we play the Bucs, division rivals. But you saw the Bills today, who we play next year, and they're competitive, right? So I want to go into that game knowing that this team's going to go in there and kick ass, right? So big shout out to everybody in the chat. Once again, big shout out to all the Falcon fans who support the Atlanta Falcons, who rock with One Time for the Fan, DSGB Hall, Falcon Commander, Dwayne Ruffin, Reggie 2K is in the chat. Drop your comments. Let's talk Falcons football, about what you think about the Jimmy Lake firing, who you guys think the defensive coordinator for next year is going to be, and so on. Tyreek Johnson, man, Krinsman, Huntsman is in the chat too as well. Ulbrich is likely option for a defensive coordinator. Reggie 2K is in the chat. Said Tyreek, new uniforms aren't going to get us to the place that new uniforms. And of course, that's something I think for fans that want to know. I believe the Falcons, they can put in, I don't know if they have to they kind of have to apply for new uniforms or something like that. They just don't go out there and just drop new uniforms. They have to let the NFL know or something, and then I guess the NFL approves it or some nonsense. But I was told last year that they were supposed to be able to do it this year. That's what a fan told me last year. The Falcons are able to go and look into new uniforms, this year, but new uniforms ain't gonna do nothing. I remember that time they dropped them new uniforms with Julio, man. I bought them damn uniforms, and Julio, they traded them that season.
Yeah, got rid of them. I was mad about that.
I still got the jerseys in there right now, man. That's a waste of money right there. Come on, man. The new uniforms would be great. Really bring back the throwbacks. Rock the throwbacks more. Keep selling the throwbacks, right? Keep those available. When you go to the team store, Terry, in Atlantic Station, when you go to the team store at the stadium, the throwbacks need to be there. Fans love it, right? Yeah. And, of course, the Falcons are winning in the throwbacks, too, as well. So always keep those available. But new uniforms, hey, if you want to go with a new design,
let's make the throwbacks the new ones.
Honestly, man, those Vic Black Falcon jerseys during the Vic era, they'll
never go back to those,
bro.
I don't think Arthur wants to go back to those because it's a reminder of
that era.
Yeah. Plus,
was that the bad boy era?
No, that was the. I'm not gonna crack that joke. But yeah, I just think it's a reminder of what I mean. Look, they could. I don't know. Here's my question about Ulbrich, right? Mm-hmm. When Salah was let go, that defense tanked.
Mm-hmm.
So
was Ulbrich giving his all though, or is he just put into position to know that, hey, I just have to coach this team because I'm here? I mean, a lot of coaches are thinking going into the season you're not going to get fired midway either, right? But
he didn't. Ulbrich didn't get fired. Ulbrich.
I'm talking about Salah.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that defense tanked.
Mm-hmm.
So what that says to me is Salah was the secret sauce and that defense. And when he left, Ulbrich couldn't run it. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. Ulbrich did not run it as well as Salah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but you also have to keep in mind to the Jets, the way they were, in the standings and the record, those players were not playing at 100%. They did not want to play for Ulbrich. They looked like they did not want to play for Salah either. Even for Aaron Rodgers, for a lot of those players, you can see the emotions on the sideline from some of those Jets games and Jets players, even from Sauce Gardner. They were not the same Jets team that everybody built them up to be. So you're looking around that time when Salah got fired, even with Ulbrich taking over, they was technically already out of the runnings anyway.
The defense played for Saleh, is what I'm saying. The offense, and look, I mean, if we're gonna go here, we're gonna go here. Aaron Rodgers at this point in his career is a cancer. I'll say it. I will say it. I will put it out there. Cut him out.
I think we all agree.
Cut him out. He's gotten 3 coaches fired now, right? Or at least 2. 2 in a hook, 2 in a possible, like we bid in spades. Okay. And for what? You came over, right? This offseason, you don't show up to mandatory practice and nothing happens, right? That's ownership. That's ownership. You just let it go. Then Aaron pushes what's his name on the sideline, and you fire him 2 weeks later, and then they go, whatever. Look, Aaron Rodgers is a first ballot Hall of Famer, but right now he sucks.
Yeah, he's pretty bad.
And I'll say it because I don't like people who get coaches fired. I just don't. I've never been a fan of that. I'm a Gen Xer. I'm old school. Hey, you don't have to love your coach, but to be so underhanded and so cowardly as to go to ownership and get him fired, I don't want you on my island, bro.
I'm glad you said that too, because none of the players in that Falcons defense got Jimmy Lake fired.
No, Jimmy Lake.
That's Jimmy Lake threw himself under the bus. I think we all can agree on that. You know, when there's certain players who's not playing for those coaches, certain players are calling out. Certain fans are calling out players in the NFL. I think they can say kind of somewhat the same about Michael Parsons right now, right? Is he giving it 100% right now? Fans are saying he's more worried about the podcast than he is about playing football.
Is that fair? Is that fair though? I mean, let's look at his stats, right? Let's look at his stats, because that's I don't know that that's fair. I mean, look at this is a new generation. This generation expresses themselves.
He's also injured this year too, as well.
Right, but I mean,
he's about to get the bag too, so I think he's going to be available this offseason.
I mean, I hope he is. I'd sure like to have him. I would sure like to have him.
Looking at the Falcons cap situation, let's just go ahead and bypass that. I don't think that's going to be happening this season.
Hey, man, a man can dream. A man can dream, okay? Don't take away my dreams. So we got 12 sacks this year. He had 14 last year. He had 13 and a half the year before. And so, I mean, that's that. What, he's 1 sack off? Even with the injuries? Even with his 1 sack off? I don't know. You know what? Let's look at his PFF.
Big shout to Mateo in the chat. Travis Preston's in the chat. Rachel 2K is in the chat. Keith Simmons is in the chat. He said Khalil Mack. It's a name
Ronnie
to think about.
Thomas is in the chat. Ronnie
This
Thomas.
live is lit. There she go. Miss Carrie, baby.
Miss Carrie, baby.
Carrie's
He's got a 90 PFF record. He's got a 90 PFF record. So settle PFF. Down on all the he's not, because he's got a 90. Okay. He is hood certified.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey.
So of course, Falcons fans this year, if he's going to be entering the free agency, he's going to be, probably the number one player on defense to get the bag this year. Looking at the free agency too as well, there's not too many big names that the Falcons need to go out there and start targeting. I mean, a lot of these deals that the Falcons, I think, they're going to bring in this offseason are 1-year deals. They got to look at that cap room too as well. I mean, they could, from looking at what Scott Karisic said, they could get about
30
after
million?
all is said and what? Not with Scott Karisic. Scott Karisic breaks it down. No, he's gonna break it down to the shoes and the shoelaces.
I was supposed to have him on my show Friday, and my power went out. Darn it! And we're supposed to do a show about it Friday night.
Let me tell you something. Now that you have to do that show again, I'd love to be on that show too as well, because Scott knows he knows his football. But he mentioned earlier today, with everything that could be taken care of behind the scenes for the Atlanta Falcons, you could get around 50 to 70 million, right? And Scott deals with a lot of numbers when it comes to he doesn't work for the Atlanta Falcons, right? He does this thing in his own time. But Scott takes this time during the day to look at the contracts, to break down numbers, to break down incentives, to break down everything to find out how can the Falcons get to this number. And it's great when you get a chance to, have Scott on your podcast a couple times. But going into 2025 now, this year, we got to get Scott back quickly because this offseason is about cap room. It's about who you can bring in, why you have to pay this guy this certain amount, why this guy has to restructure his contract. People talking about ship Grady out of here and ship Kyle out of here and get this person. Like, Scott breaks down different. He doesn't just do one scenario. He breaks down multiple scenarios about how the Falcons could get this type of cap, right? How you can keep this player, flip this cap, restructure this guy, cut this guy, sign this guy. He really goes, full detail on what the Falcons could do. And I'm sure in the Falcons, front office, they're doing the same exact thing. So there's people out here just like Scott who spend time looking at the numbers and, all the financial work that the Falcons are doing and seeing how, they can get this cap room. There's Falcon fans out here who study the Falcons equipment, right? What visors the players are wearing on their helmets, right? What type of face mask those guys have on, right? What type of shoulder pad? I've seen Falcon fans break that type of stuff down. So big shout out to Scott and fans like that who take it, beyond just, putting on a helmet, getting on the field and running some plays, right? Yeah. These guys are, they like the draft guys too as well. That study this stuff 24/7.
Yeah, they have to. They have
like
to.
Right now, Terry, honestly, we should be looking into more of this draft stuff. Which I have taken some time to look into, some of the top teams, college football players. But of course, the Falcons will go and draft the guy from Montana State, right? That you don't even know about. Next thing you know, he's your starting middle linebacker, right? So you really have to go deep into Raheem and Terry's scouting process of what they want this year. I'm going to stand on it every single day when you ask me who the Falcons are in the draft. I'm saying defense. I don't see really not an offensive piece that the Falcons can go get outside of a tackle unless you know what's going on with the McGarry or Jake Matthews situation. I think Matthews hopefully will restructure the contract and stay here for another 2 or 3 more years. But I want to know this going into the draft. I need to know that this is Jake's last year. If I hear that this is Jake's last year and he's saying that this is the farewell tour, I think it might be that time to look into, maybe get your Sewell right here, your Penei Sewell or your big time tackle that you can, keep right here under a rookie contract. Jake goes out next year. You bring him onto your front line, help those guys out. I saw a post today from one of the Chicago Bears groups that mentioned they might want to target Drew Dahlman in the offseason. It's like, oh damn! So the Bears are trying to come get our center. Okay, let's see what's going on there. So you got to know that there's some teams that are looking at the Falcons players because our offense was, decent, at the point of where Kirk Cousins had them, and then he declined. But then when Michael Penix got in there, you saw what he did with Bijan and Kyle Pitts and Drake London. And, you got some guys that I think some teams are watching. And the offseason getting ready to start soon. And then they're probably going to be calling the Falcons to find out, hey, what do you guys want for this guy? What's going on with this guy? So it's going to be a great offseason, man. I honestly cannot wait. Khalil Mack, one of the names that Falcon fans are mentioning here. Michael Parsons, another name too as well that Falcon fans would love to see in Atlanta. But of course, when free agency starts, you got to look at that cap space and find out what moves you can make, what positions you got to fill. Cool thing about here on One Time for the Fan, we're going to go over it, man. I think the Falcons need another cornerback outside of AJ. You got to look at that linebacker room too as well because you got a couple guys that's going to be out the door. That D line too as well. You got to stack up that defense. Notice how I just said defense. But if you can get that same group back for that offensive line next year for Penix, depending on how they want to work with McGarry, and of course Bijan is going to be there, Tyler Algier, Drake London, Mooney. Don't think Rondell Moore is going to be here. Hodge, hopefully they can go ahead and keep him too. And then Ray and so on. You got to add a couple pieces there. I don't know if they're going to work Casey Washington coming up, how that's going to happen. But the Falcons have a really decent team next year that I think fans should be excited about. And of course the schedule, it's not no cupcake schedule. We got to come out there ready to play every game. But yeah, just be ready for this offseason, man, because I know Terry has his podcast for my ATL Sports, and he's over here with One Time for the Fan, and you guys see all these content creators talking every day, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, 8 o'clock in the evening, no matter what time. Like everybody's excited about this offseason just as much as they were during the season. right? So one time for the fans going to be here every step of the way to talk Falcons football with you all. Carrie's here, Falcon fan. Please hit
Carrie.
that like button. Let's bring in a DC with NFL DC experience. Right. So Falcons made Carrie smile on Saturday. And there's one thing about the podcast thing too, right? We talked about it here, Terry, on Friday with Lunch with One Time for the Fan. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We mentioned we don't know what the Falcons will do, but we have a podcast Sunday night. Hopefully they do something so we have something to talk about Sunday night.
Right.
We get off the podcast. We go build our snowman. Did you build a snowman, Terry?
My niece did. Jonah did. So Jonah and my youngest daughter Maya went outside and built a tiny snowman, and then they came back inside. They were not fans of the cold, but they did. They did their best and did their work. And yeah, man, it was a good time had by all. So we certainly enjoyed the snow. It was good that it happened on the weekend. You know what I mean? Nobody necessarily has to really miss anything. I although I know it was snowing outside earlier. Do you know if any schools are closed tomorrow, Jack? Or
no? I got the text from my kids' school said they are open, ready to go tomorrow.
They are wide open and ready to go. I hear that, man. Hey, so Kenneth says, anyone want to see a real Atlanta football defense? Check out the 77 Grits Blitz and the single greatest defense of all time. Hey, let me tell you something, man.
That Grits Blitz was no
that
joke.
Grits Blitz, I was there for that. That Grits Blitz was
Take us back to that time, Terry.
Hey, man, let me tell you something. They sacked more quarterbacks than I can't crack the joke anymore. I was about to crack a joke and it's not funny, but
that's back when you had hair.
Yeah. That I had a big afro back then. I was 7. It was serious. It was huge,
like Superfly,
man, bro. I couldn't carry it, man. My neck was tired. I already got a big head. You had a big ass afro to that.
Out in the streets of East Point.
It was no. I was what was I? Decatur. Yeah, we were off of Crestdale, which is near Gresham Park. That's where our family started in Atlanta.
You and the homies.
Yeah, man. I
the OGs.
I used to play baseball at Gresham Park.
Nice.
Play,
nice.
but no, man. No, well, so I played for the Royals. I didn't play football.
For
Gresham Park, but they did have the Rattlers back then. It's interesting you say that. It makes me sad when I drive back there and I don't see like the football fields anymore, because that park used to be complete with football and baseball fields, and it was really something. It was really something, man. But yeah, man, Grits Blitz, let me tell you something. Every game you saw a quarterback on his back 3, 4, 5, 6 times. I mean, it was just something, man. It was.
You can build back that type of defense. You just got to get the right guys in here that fits the scheme, that responds to the coaching staff, that responds to everything, their communication, their adjustments, everything, right? I mean, there's some defenses right now in the NFL that, a lot of teams are, kind of nervous about playing. I think the Denver Broncos, if you look at it today, didn't really match up well going up against the Buffalo Bills. I think a lot of people picked the Bills to win that game. Same like the Eagles before the Packers even was selected. I mean, you're going to go play in Philadelphia, at 1:00 on a Sunday. That's going to be a tough game. So, big shout out to all the Falcon fans that, had to endure what we did this season. We had to go to Minnesota this year. Of course, the Charger game, that was a tough one too as well. That Eagles game week 2, that was a tough game catching the Eagles early in the season, but we came away with a win that time, man. So Falcon fans in the chat talking about defensive coordinators. Kerry said, I would love Saleh, probably best defensive coordinator available, but in my mind, he's not even available. So I'm hoping Wilkes, since the DC experience. He was at training camp this past offseason just for at least 2 days. A lot of Falcon fans are going to say Steve Wilkes. I think the number one candidate outside of Robert Saleh in the NFL for defensive coordinator right now is probably Steve Wilkes. But then fans are kind of wondering, Terry, Steve Wilkes, he hasn't got a call from no team yet. Like nobody's hitting him up.
He had an interview
with the Colts.
I believe so. Yeah.
I saw I didn't know if that one was true. I didn't want to go and say that one was true just yet because I didn't know if it was out there reported from Ian Rappaport or Adam Schefter, but somebody said something about the Colts have called him. But I don't see nothing here still right now with nobody. I mean,
with Atlanta. Yeah, well, it was probably over the weekend. They're probably formulating their strategy, and you'll probably hear about it, like you say, either Monday or Tuesday. I would expect they would be on this very quickly, as these candidates tend to go very quickly. So
So the Indy Star has the Colts apparently, and this is January 9th. This is Joe Erickson. So apparently Joe Erickson from the Indy Star is saying that Steve Wilkes will interview for the Colts job, the defensive coordinator position over there. But there's a couple more names that they name on this Indy Star report, but I don't see nothing about it coming from, Ian Rappaport, some of those other guys. So, I mean, Falcon fans, fingers crossed. Let's hope we just get our guy.
Yep.
Right? Let's hope we get our guy here in Atlanta. Good thing about it is Falcon fans going to be locked in this entire offseason. Right? I don't think they're going to wait till the draft to get their guy or after the draft to get their guy. I think this move happens before the end of February, Terry.
You think so? I hope so.
Yeah. That's a good amount of time to go find a coordinator.
I hope so.
Right?
I tell you what, I have an interesting stat for you, Jack.
Every day you got to hit the ground running. Why would you wait so long to go get a coordinator? You got to bring him in.
I would hope you wouldn't. I would definitely not with the work we got to do this offseason. Yeah. So I would hope not. But our offense was 6th in yards this past year and 13th in points. And if you think about that, with that Kirk drop off for 5 games, that's pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm.
That is pretty darn good. If you think about that, right? And then you think about who we have running that offense now and the weapons that he has. You're 6th in yards. You're top 6 in the NFL in yards. You're top 13 in points, and that was with a game where we scored no touchdowns, and that abysmal run that Kirk went on. So, I'm excited about this team next year, man. I really feel like we can put up 40 burgers on just about anybody. So
that's the good thing about being a Falcon fan, man. Is definitely being excited about the upcoming game or the upcoming off season or the next season or however it's going to be. I mean, just to know the teams that we play next year have already been announced. They haven't announced the dates of when we're playing them, but just to know that next year the Bills, the Dolphins, the Patriots are getting ready to hire their new head coach. I think it's going to be Vrabel. I mean, fans kind of saw that. The 49ers we play next year, they're going to get a new defensive coordinator. The Jets are going to have a new head coach. The Saints are going to have a new head coach. So there's a lot of changes. We're going to have a new defensive coordinator. Carolina's trying to shift up their coaching staff right now. So, and you still have some teams that's in the playoffs right now that we haven't even seen what moves they're going to make after this is all over, right? And some players too as well that could be on the move. George Pickens is a name to watch for too as well, because when these players get ready to hit this market soon, right, it's going to open up just a new wave of how much you should be paying the top receiver or the top corner or the top tight end. The good thing about it is, Terry, I don't think there's nobody on our team that we need to worry about that needs to be paid top dollar going forward, right? Like, we don't have AJ coming up saying, hey, I need $500 million tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's some NFL players right now that's getting ready to ask for that. They're getting ready to break the bank, as they say in the NFL. If you look at our
break in 2026, don't you?
That is, yeah. But if you look at our roster, even if you look at our contract situation, I don't think Drake is going to break the bank when it comes to Drake being that contract year, right? You think Drake's going to be the highest paid receiver when he gets to his deal?
Man,
like, even for right now, I mean,
was he top 5 this year?
Fans would say yes because we're Falcon fans, but
no,
stats and numbers.
In stats, he was top 5. That's a fact, Jack. In stats, he was top 5, and mind you, he's only had a quarterback for 2 years. That was his first year with Matt, and that was Matt on his way out. And then this year, okay. Falcons better go ahead and get that extension done. That's what they better do.
I
Don't
think they
let
should
him
get
hit
that done
free
before
agency.
2026. Yeah, you can't let him touch that free agency.
Don't let
Let's
him
go
hit
look at
free
Drake
agency.
London here.
Don't let him do it.
Big shout out to Falcon fans in the chat. Hit that like, share, subscribe button. Drake London, 100 receptions this year, tied ninth across the league. And let's see, 1,271 yards, fourth in the league in yards. Touchdowns, he had 9. He was tied for ninth in the league. On average, he was 12.7, 104th in the league. I'm sure there's going to be some more stats that we can go through with Drake. Let's see here, some behind the numbers stats.
He was fourth in yards, right?
Fourth in yards, tied for ninth in receptions, tied for ninth in touchdowns.
There you go.
I'm sure you can pull up some PFF blockings too right there. I mean, he did a good job this season, man. Drake's been balling, man. Going back to Drake, let's see here. Going back to Drake last year, you have Drake sitting at 69 receptions, so a big improvement for Drake this year. 110 targets, 905 yards, 2 touchdowns last year for Drake London. 72 targets.
Yeah,
that wasn't on Drake too as well. Of course, I think we know. I think we know what happened there. don't want to get nobody around.
Absolutely. What you saw this year is what he can do with a real quarterback. Yeah, no.
I mean, look at him this year. I mean, last year. Okay, go back to his first year. 72 receptions, 117 targets, 866 yards.
Wait, did he play with Matt? Did he play? I don't think he played with Matt.
He didn't play with Matt. No.
So this was his first year having a real quarterback.
Oh yeah, he went off.
You better go ahead and extend that dude.
100 receptions, 158 targets, 1,271 yards, 9 TDs for Drake London. So far, 15 touchdowns throughout his career, over 3,000 yards in 3 years here in Atlanta. So big shout out to Drizzy Drake London. So yeah, when it comes to his contract year, it's time to probably not break the bank, but it's a player to watch for. Bijan. Now, Terry. Bijan is a break the bank moment. I think you know that.
I don't think
Drake's going to be the highest paid running back in the league when Bijan gets ready for contract year.
If
he continues at this rate.
The highest paid not named Saquon. Yeah.
Sheesh.
And no disrespect to Bijan, look, he's that dude. They're both going to get paid, which is again why I say if you're going to do something, I really feel like you have to have a sense of urgency this year because you're not going to be able to sign Tyler. You're not going to be able to sign Kyle because you got Jesse's contract who's coming up, right? So that's Jesse, that's Drake, and Bijan is what, 2027, 2028? We drafted him last year, 23, right? So 5 years, 2028. So 2 years after that. But you definitely got to take care of Jesse. You definitely got to take care of Drake. So
about to pull it up.
Yeah.
Falcon fans, hit that like, hit that share, hit that subscribe button. Got Chris Lindstrom too as well. That's in the future.
Caleb McGarry's contract ends 2026. Although, and to be honest, I don't know that you necessarily have to do anything. Look at those Matthews boys, they play till in their 40s if they're offensive linemen. Like, they're just built different. So you probably got another 3-4 years out of Jake. I don't know that that's the case, but I would assume that. And McGarry wasn't bad last year. Now, he does have slow feet, but let me tell you something. When you're running the ball, he's a mauler. Every time they needed 2, 3, 4 yards, they ran to the right side, which is Lindstrom and McGarry. So I don't know that they necessarily want to break it up. That's kind of a conundrum there, man. I mean, I don't know.
The hell is it?
I have no idea. That's what I'm looking at. Looks like it's an ad.
I don't know. It's a man.
Hit close. Yeah, there you go.
I mean, even going into the 2026 year, I mean, some of these names to look for. Jesse Bates is going to be one of your big names.
Yep.
Lindstrom. I mean, Bergeron shouldn't be like a big deal to. I mean, not calling him out saying you shouldn't get a big contract. I mean, pay these guys what they're worth, but you're looking for like contracts is gonna be worried about. Like, oh man, this guy's gonna want a bunch of money. He's gonna break the bank on us. Like Trice, Harrison, Clark, Dorless. You know what I'm saying? Warner, like, some of the names to look for here, Atlanta, as the Falcons get ready to work on their cap situation. Big shout out to T Terry in the chat. He said, "Is Saleh going to try and be a head coach again? Morris will not want someone to take his job one day. Saleh could do that." That's what I'm looking at with the 49ers situation. Same like what you're getting in Pittsburgh. Fans are kind of fed up with Tomlin, right? And there's some people that's saying, hey, if the Falcon or if Tomlin was to, if the Steelers was to move on from Tomlin, and you have a guy like Arthur Smith that's there, right? And he's already had head coaching responsibilities in the past. So if you look at Robert Saleh going to the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan can't get the job done and they decide to, hey, let's move on from Shanahan, you have a guy like Robert Saleh who I think they would say he wouldn't even be like a Darren Rizzi from New Orleans, like an interim coach. If he gets the job over Kyle Shanahan and they let him go, then you're talking about Robert Saleh probably being the head coach of the 49ers going forward. So maybe that's a move where John Lynch is looking in the future to say, hey, we can bring in this guy as the DC. If Shanahan doesn't get the job done, Saleh can take over. So, I mean, fans are kind of upset too as well in San Francisco about the 49ers the past couple of years. And you see with the Steelers, I think everybody bet the Ravens last night. I didn't see a Steeler team that was going to go in there and compete at much at all. I didn't care who was at quarterback. I don't care who they had at wide receiver. That Steeler team just wasn't ready to go up against the Ravens last night.
No,
they wasn't ready. Like in the regular season, they was not ready to play the Ravens. That Ravens team is where they should be right now in the playoffs. They are pretty good.
They're primed and ready to go.
That Bills team is pretty good. Justin Herbert pretty much shot himself in the foot playing the way he did against the Houston Texans.
Yeah, 4 interceptions.
He could have, honestly, without those 4 interceptions, I probably would have saw the Chargers winning that game. But Justin Herbert, man, you put yourself in a bad situation right there where we saw you on the sideline, man. Matter of fact, my quarterback did that this year. So I know that feeling, Justin Herbert. As a fan, Charger fans, as a fan, my quarterback did the same exact shit this year. So I know the feeling.
Oh, wow.
But the only problem is you guys did it in the playoffs. We did it against you guys in the regular season, right? I mean, going to some other games too as well. I mean, the Vikings game was tough to watch, right? Like, oh, man, I don't want to go back, man. Cool as Dre Gaming in the chat, man. Let's go Falcons. Big changes, hopefully. Good to see the fans that are in the chat that still believe in these Atlanta Falcons. Everybody has Falcon gear in their house. Everybody in the chat here is probably wearing a Falcon hat or Falcon shoes or something, Falcon socks. We all still rock with the Atlanta Falcons. We are just upset at these past few years. Hell, Terry, you've been a Falcon fan. How long you said now?
48 years, bro.
48 years. And Terry, I don't want to say it, but you don't have a Super Bowl ring, right?
I don't, but you know what? There are ebbs and flows. I don't feel bad about, even though we didn't make it to the playoffs, I don't feel bad about it for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think Raheem needed to have that experience. I really do. Because I do not think he will be as laissez-faire with timeouts next year. I would hope he would not. I do not think he will wait as long to make certain personnel decisions next year. And hopefully he will handle the media with a little more humility, right? But I think this was a learning season for him. I think this offense is poised and ready to go. Penix is a superstar. He can make any throw on the field. And you have weapons. Very rare it's rare that you have a quarterback that comes up that you draft into a team with this amount of weapons, right? You got Bijan Robinson, who is a superstar. You have Drake, who is a superstar. You have Mooney, who is always open. You have Kyle Pitts, who I don't know what the hell he is, but if you can get something out of him, you're doing great, right? You've got Ray. You've got Algier. You've got a cast of characters that can assemble a great offense, and it's ready-made for you. And if you can get a defensive coordinator in there who knows what he's doing, maybe you don't have to have a bunch of superstars, right? Maybe he can get everybody in the same system, moving in the same direction, and maybe he comes up with the system that better fits his personnel. That's what I'm hoping. But I don't. I look at. I've been in years where the Falcons didn't make the playoffs, and the next year looked bad too, and the year after that looked bad, and the year after that. I don't get that feeling from this team. I get that this feeling will be right. This team will be right back in the mix next year. And I really feel like they'll make the playoffs, and contingent upon how things shake through, they could go on a run. So I'm more hopeful. I don't have that destitute feeling, right? I don't have that. Oh my God, my franchise is in a bit of dystopia. Which way is up? Oh my God, we have no cap space, and we don't have anything on offense or defense, and we don't know which way is up, and we don't. Those are bad feels, like the Joey Harrington years, right? Like the time between when Michael Vick left and when Matt Ryan came on. Those are pretty much tough years, right? I don't have that feeling this year, so I'm very optimistic.
And there were some fans that would definitely listen to that, and they'll say, Terry, but we missed the playoffs the past 6 years, man. We can't win the division. The Bucs win the division. Like Raheem Morris, he told us this. He put us up here on this type of pedestal before the season started, and this is what we got. So I know some fans are going to be sitting here through this offseason thinking about the cap and Kyle Pitts trading him and getting this guy out of here, and we got a new DC now coming in the building. Terry, give us some positivity. You've been through this for 48 years plus, dealing with the Atlanta Falcons. And a lot of Falcon fans here can relate to that too as well. I'm sure there's some Falcon fans here in the chat that have been season ticket holders and diehard Falcon fans since the early days. But Terry, please give us a message for the Falcon fans to believe that next year this could all be better.
I mean, I think it will be back. Look, I've been on teams that I'm sorry. I've seen Falcon teams to where that next year you knew you had no hope, right? The 2012 Falcons team that got to the NFC Championship and lost, you knew you were going to lose some weapons next year. You just knew it. And you had a feeling like you weren't going to get back there, right? 2016, Kyle left, and it hurt us because we couldn't find someone to come in and run this offense. That 2017 team was probably better. But you just didn't have anybody to run the offense, because if you did, we probably win the Super Bowl, right? If you bring somebody in there that understands Kyle's system, I would say we at least make it to the Super Bowl. So,
I thought your little brother was flicking you off there for a minute.
No.
I thought you guys had a little rival, a little beef going on. I'm about to say, hey, we go ahead and cut the show right now. We'll be back Wednesday.
Nah, man. Not my brother. That's my dog, man. That's my guy. But I mean, look at this team, bro. Even with Kirk's whatever he went through, we were still 13th in points and 6th in yards, which means we were moving the ball on anybody. We're moving the ball on anybody. So I'm not devoid of hope, right? I'm very encouraged again, because even when you had Michael Vick and his years, Michael Vick never had the assortment of characters that we have on offense. He did not have that assortment of weapons. It came, but he did not have that assortment of weapons. And although Michael Vick was a very great runner and had a great arm, I do not know that he was as accurate as Penix. Now, he could throw it a mile. I know.
We've only seen Penix for 3 games. We saw him in college too as well. So we don't have the time to sit here and compare numbers between Penix and Washington, Virginia Tech, Hokies, and Michael Vick. But we will get a chance to see some years here with Michael Penix, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we need the right people around Penix to really show that off too as well, right? So with Bijan and Drake, Mooney too as well. Like, we can't compliment Mooney enough. I mean, you're talking about Drake London, but Mooney, man,
always open.
That guy right there, you saw him play in Chicago for those years, and it's like, who is this guy? And then a couple of years later, you see him down here in Atlanta, and it's like, don't leave. Like, we need you here for as long as you're playing in the NFL. You might be one of the best wide receiver twos that we've had around here in a while, right?
Mhm.
And if you get the right people around Mooney too as well, like he's going to need a good offensive line to block and hold that, the defensive line in the trenches, so that way he can get up the field and get his routes in. And Kyle Pitts, you're going to need a good tight end that can block too as well, get up the field, kick some passes, and move the chains. You need a quarterback who's accurate to get you the ball, a running back to help you move the sticks, and you have a couple pieces there that I think Falcon fans can say, hey, the OC is kind of good right now. The DC is going to come in here and have to make some changes, right? But even for next year, Zach Robinson, you got to, if you're there, I mean, I'm sure they're going to keep him, but you got to open up that playbook for Penix. I think people want to see that big arm from Penix. They want to see 60, 70-yard shots down the field with Mooney catching the ball and Ray like this. Like, there was a couple times you could see Penix got a cannon, bro. You know what I'm saying? And those darts that he threw to Drake London on that one pass, to Hodge on that sideline pass, Drake London back shoulder throw. I think he went to that. Matter of fact, his best throws might be that back shoulder throw, man. He loves that back shoulder throw. You know what I'm saying? He's tried that a couple times already with Drake and Ray and Hodge. That back shoulder throw seems to be one of Penix's signature throws, man. But it's just great to see the young man do some incredible things in his first 3 years. But first 3 games. But next year is really time to get down to the nitty gritty, because when you have stuff like this, we'll go ahead and pop this on the screen. You got stuff like this coming out, and this is coming from Bleacher Report. Top NFL trade packages for Kirk Cousins at the Falcons move the quarterback in the offseason. Penix, you're going into camp next year. I don't think there's going to be a QB battle between anybody. Penix is going to be the guy going forward. And, when you look at your backup situation, that's another thing to talk about this offseason, where the Falcons are going to move. But they have already announced that, the NFL hasn't announced or anything like that. But a lot of these media sites are looking at Kirk Cousins' potential landing spots next year. And, of course, with Deshaun Watson going down, there's some of these, journalism sites mentioning maybe Kirk Cousins would be a good fit with the Cleveland Browns.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Browns get quarterback Kirk Cousins.
Kevin Stefanski there, and he's comfortable with Kevin. He's worked with Kevin before. So,
2025 fourth round pick, safety Juwan Thornhill. That's what they're mentioning in a potential trade. I mean, everybody's going to have these mock type of information and rumors. Of course, the report that the Sanders is really heavily interested in the Las Vegas Raiders head coaching position. Then there was a report that came out earlier today randomly that the Raiders are not interested in Deion Sanders, but the Raiders were also mentioned in this Bleacher Report article about Kirk Cousins, where he can end up next year. And they said the Raiders get Kirk Cousins, Falcons get a 2025 fourth round pick. But you notice here, Terry, we're trying to get an extra pick here. We only got 4, right? So at least we're trying to get one more. If you can make a move for Kirk Cousins, the New York Giants is a name that came into play. And all I'm seeing is fourth round picks here, Terry. No thirds, no seconds. You damn sure ain't getting no first for Kirk. But a fourth round pick is the best pick you can get for probably Kirk right now. Is that
and a player? But I think you want to cut that down because Kirk has a no trade clause. And if I'm Kirk, I'm not going to the Giants.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to the Raiders. If I'm Kirk, believe you me, I got all the leverage because I don't have to go anywhere. You can cut me and pay me, or you can keep me on the bench and pay me. So if you're going to trade me, you're not sending me to the Giants because they're going to suck. They're going to perpetually suck. You're not trading me to the Jets.
That's a funny one right here. The New York
You're not trading me to the Jets.
But the edge Michael Clemens, for us to get Michael Clemens in the fourth round draft pick for Kirk Cousins.
Kirk is a very shrewd, right? Unless you're just desperate to play. Now, maybe the Steelers. Maybe. I don't know. But I don't see Kirk. I don't see Kirk.
I don't see Kirk in the Steeler uniform for some strange reason because of the way that they went out this year. You're not really upgrading to go get Kirk, right?
Well,
you already had Russ and Justin Fields and so on. And, some fans were saying, from Steeler camp, like, maybe Justin Fields should have played that game. Could have been a little bit different. Then again, the Steeler defense, a lot of those players, they just look like they were just tired, right? They look like the Ravens after they scored the first touchdown was like, oh, it's over. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like today with the Packers. Once the Eagles got that fumble on the first play of the game, it was like,
that was it.
Like, don't blame the kid who got the penalty at the end of the game on that third down.
Right.
They fumbled on the first play of the game. And the Eagles went ahead and scored from that. But then you saw, like, even the Packers fans were standing in the stadium like, what the hell? It's 7-0 in the first 2 minutes.
Yeah, man.
And we got the ball first.
I think the Eagles have the best defense in the league for a reason. So
I mean, it's a crazy Eagle front they got over there, man. From Jordan Davis and some of those guys, Carter. A lot of Falcon fans, one of those guys here in Atlanta too as well. So hey, we'll see what this offseason brings. I think the Falcons are going to have some guys. Cool thing about it is the way you're looking at your cap situation and your draft and your free agency, the guys you're bringing in need to hit the field, right?
Yeah.
Like your draft guys with those 4 picks. It shouldn't be a competition battle. They need to be on the field. Your first pick at 15, he needs to be in the game week 1. Your next pick at 70 something, he needs to be in the game week 1. Your second and your third round, they need to be in the game week 1. Ain't no sideline. We need everybody contributing next year. Now, of course, if they go find their way to go ahead and bring in 3-4 more draft picks, we should never know Terry might work on what he might cook up in the offseason. Remember, Terry is cooking. Don't forget about the offseason, Terry. Offseason Terry gets the cooking.
He does get the cooking.
He gets the cooking. So I'm letting you know right now, Terry Fontenot, having him around here, he's going to get some things done behind the scenes that's going to have us content creators, us fans here wondering what the hell's happening. I'm not hearing no news. They are working behind the scenes. You see on a Saturday at 2 p.m. after Snowmageddon, after Snowlaska, Snowlana, you see Terry and them is working.
Terry's getting it in, man. Terry is getting it in. No doubt about it.
Let's find out what the Falcons will do this offseason. Some will say you're going to trade Kirk. Some will say you're going to keep Kirk. Let's find out what the Falcons do. We will be here to talk about it on One Time for the Fan. That's the cool part. Of being a podcaster. That's the cool part of just sitting here following the Falcons. Matter of fact, I got an email the other day. Your season tickets are due. I know my goddamn season tickets are due. You didn't make the playoffs? Did you know that? I'm going to email them back and we're supposed to be in town. We're supposed to be in Watch. We're supposed to be at the Benz this week.
That was your first thought.
That was my first thought, just to email them back. Like, you didn't make the playoffs?
Wow. We didn't make the playoffs, right?
Getting ready to take this money out of my account.
Tickets at a discount.
And let me tell you something about the Falcons front office when it comes to like their ticketing office. They will take the money out of your account like 5:50 in the morning. Like, who is at the office?
I've heard you say that. Nobody.
You try to at least get 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 12, 1:30 p.m. Not the Falcons. You get a notification 5:50, like, oh shit, damn, my account. Oh shit, somebody got my account. No. Falcons just took X, Y, and Z out.
Hi, we're the Falcons. We took your payment.
Who is at the office at 5:50 in the morning running payments?
I wonder if it's an automated draft though. Like it could be set up to automatically draft.
It probably is. But at 5:50 in the morning, you couldn't schedule the automated draft at my time around like 10 or 11?
Apparently not. Business never sleeps. So apparently not.
Falcon fans in the chat, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. The cool thing about this podcast too, as well, is to see everybody here talking Falcons football. At the end of the day, man, be excited to be a Falcon fan. Eric Parker said Jack Spade at QB2. Keith Simmons said, do we keep Dahlman? I think we do. I definitely think. I hope we do. There's a couple teams going to come. They're going to come looking for these players, man.
Yeah.
Kyle Pitts is a name to look at. Drew Dahlman's a name to look at. Landman, Ellis, name to look at. D. Alford. Some of these names, Justin Simmons, Matthew Judon. I mean, we're going to get into that shortly. I think that some fans can already see some of the names that's going to be available this offseason due to contracts. But who the Falcons keep, who the Falcons let go, that's what we can talk about here on One Time for the Fan. Keith will be here talking about it. Mateo will be here talking about it. Wallace Smith, who's been here for quite some time talking Falcons football.
What's going on, Mr. Wallace? How you doing, man?
Wallace Smith, man. You guys do a great job. And, tonight, a lot of comments, a lot of people chatting in the chat. So thank you all for being here talking Falcons football. Just continue to support this team. Smooth season in the chat too as well. Thanks for liking my tweet on the Jimmy Lake news when it first happened. We have a special guest also joining us to finish up the show. The producer is here just to make sure we're running the show correctly.
What's going on?
Miss Carrie's here. One time for the fan. What's up, Carrie?
Happy Sunday. How you guys doing?
Hey, happy Sunday. I was going to say happy playoff Sunday to you. You know what I'm
saying? Oh,
sheesh. Jack, that's not.
I just feel bad, right, man. This could have been our day. This was our day to be playing the Commanders, man. I should be at the Benz right now.
I was literally just thinking that, listening to the show, I'm like, wow, we really should be hosting a playoff game at home for the first time finally in the Benz. It's going to be 2026. It has to be.
It better be. I'm just at that point where, I'm always going to be here. I love my team. But, we come here on this podcast and we give the fans information about the Falcons and our opinion, our thoughts about the Falcons. And fans were just like us this year. We were all 6-3 together.
We was all on that boat.
We was all on that boat.
You know what's sick about that is one of the people I follow on Twitter today, they quote tweeted, it made me a little sad. They quote tweeted the post where the Falcons, the official Twitter page posted, we're 6-3, your Atlanta Falcons are 6-3. They must have saved that tweet. They quote tweeted it with like a video or a picture of the Falcons, and then they said, catch the Falcons today versus the Commanders hosting the game at the Benz. I'm like, as a joke, I guess. I'm like, this is cruel.
So,
and it made me sad.
So people do that. I saw one today where it had Joe Burrow facing Tua. They showed Joe Burrow walking into the stadium and stuff, and it's
tough. Yeah. I was like, oh man, I wish.
Hey, they got jokes for us. I think even outside of that timeout situation with Washington, you got to go back to a couple of games earlier in the season where, you just didn't get the job done. I can't even just hold that Washington game to say that was the reason why. We should have won that Saints game in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
You
should have won that Saints game in New Orleans. It's
every time I think about it, it makes me sick. Because do you remember I had that streak going? For 7 weeks, I had that streak going where I would post the Saints are what, like they lost another game. They lost the second game. They're on a 3-game losing streak, 4th game. And I was just trolling them, and they'd go viral every time. And then they play us, and we break the streak. Oh, it just makes me sick to think about that.
You lost to 3 teams this year that was on losing streaks. One team was on a 3-game losing streak. Other team was on a 6 or 7-game losing streak. Other team was on a 2-game losing streak. You should have won those games. But
tough.
The Chiefs game, even if you go off of the Chiefs game, the referee, that Kyle Pitts touchdown, that should have been the pass interference right there. Call it back. The way we was moving down the field, we would have scored right there. Game would have been over.
I don't even count that game because I feel like when you play the Chiefs, you play the Chiefs and the refs, and they've had black magic, I feel, all season.
Yeah.
They've gotten so lucky. But, I guess, good football teams find ways to win. But even they played the Broncos, and at the very end, the Broncos could have scored a game-winning field goal, and it was blocked.
Yeah.
And they won that game. They've had a lot of crazy endings to their games this season for sure.
Yeah. They got a Houston team next week that, I'm guessing everybody's going to be betting on the Chiefs because, the way Houston played against the Chargers too as well. You never know what can happen next week, but I don't see the Texans going in there and beating them. It's just that the way the Chiefs are, man, especially at home. Falcon fans, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Look, y'all, this is great talking Falcons football. T-Will.
Yes, sir.
Carrie here at One Time for the Fan. Wednesday, we're going to talk about this One Time for the Fan 2025 giveaway. The cool thing about it is, T-Will, some fans have donated to the channel using the super chats, right? And I said earlier this, pretty much around December, that at the end of the season, we'll go ahead and pretty much, I guess, raffle off some stuff here for some Falcon fans, or we'll get some winners, and we'll go ahead and start off with a nice little giveaway.
Yep.
Nice.
To end the season, but start the season, I guess, for one time for the fan, because it's going to be a long year for us. But we did a great job last year with the giveaways and everything. So I know a lot of fans are probably expecting another giveaway, but here it is. So Wednesday, we'll let you guys know all the details to it. And all the fans that, have donated to the channel, I definitely appreciate it. I'm sure Carrie appreciates it, Bodie and T
For
Will.
sure.
And
Definitely.
the first time we opened up the super chat when we hit 1,000 subscribers and people were donating, we said, well, hey, we'll just, I don't know, go out and I guess grab a fan or two and I guess pick a winner and we'll give something back to the fans. So
when did we hit 1,000, Jack? Was it in September?
Shit, no, I think we hit 1,000 close to my birthday, close to October.
Okay.
Around that time. But we did a great job with this one time for the fan, man. I'm talking about for the fans that's been here in the chat, on the channel, for the special guests. Have done an amazing job here. Talking Falcons football. We haven't had any trouble, haven't had any problems. Everybody just loves talking Falcons with us. Because we're a positive group of fans. At the end of the day, don't matter if it's the Rise Up Tour fan club from putting on events on the road with the crew, or just being here on the podcast with Carrie and Bodie and T Will and talking about, we won this game and next week we have to play this team. And it's just been exciting, right? Every single time we turn this podcast on, no matter if, it's an 8:00 podcast or a pop-up show or Friday morning, we just enjoy this, right? So to do another giveaway, another give back, that would be pretty cool for you all because this off season, it's going to be a pretty long off season, and I'm sure the Falcons tomorrow will get back to work. And hell, it's 9:30 right now. They're probably still at the office right now. The way that these guys are working, but we're going to be here every step of the way to talk about it. So, T Will, man, you got some shout outs for tonight, so we can go ahead and get this thing wrapped on up, man.
Yes, sir. Well, first and foremost, to everyone who came into the chat, thank you. We appreciate you. Could have been anywhere in the world tonight on Sunday, and you chose to spend that time with us. So thank you. We appreciate it. We do not take it for granted, and we are so thankful. And look, we couldn't do this show without you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Next, I want to thank God. Wouldn't be here without him. Woke me up this morning. Continues to be the Lord and everything I need in my life and everyone I know. So got to thank him. Last but not least, I got to thank Mr. Jack Spade and Mr. Eric Parker for giving me a start in this business. And you can find me at for my ATL Sports 1, the number 4, my ATL Sports, the number 1 on YouTube. Please like, share, and subscribe. And one more time, I'm going to drop that here in the chat so you guys can see it. Because I need all the subscribers I can get so I can continue to bring you great content.
Now let's get into a thou wow.
Look. I visit one of those commercials. Help T Will get some subscribers. There's like a little fly in my eye. Help him get some subscribers. Come on. For just one subscriber a day, we can get him where he needs to be. Anyway, whatever. That those of you who remember those starving kids commercials or whatever, that's what I was thinking about. Obviously that joke missed, but Miss Carrie, tell everybody where they can find you.
I just want to reply to first of all, Atlanta Falcons Fandemic. Thank you for pointing that out, because I just look on my YouTube and I don't see it there anymore anyway. The money sign for super chats, I don't see it there anymore either. So
I was
strange.
messing around with it earlier. I had to update something for, I guess, the ad screen or whatever that shit is.
Oh, okay.
But I'm guessing maybe when that goes through by tomorrow, maybe it goes back. But it was on there earlier, so a lot of fans were already donating.
Okay, cool.
I know the channel's still good. Everything's great.
Okay, cool.
But
I'm nervous for a second. I don't see it, so
there's some YouTube shit. I don't know. I'm thinking about doing this kick stuff, man. I think if we do this kick stuff, man, get out there with them YNs.
I was about to say I must be too old because I don't even know what that is.
That's just pretty much where those, like, it's like a news streaming service type of thing.
Okay.
But it's like pretty much not too many people are doing sports streams over there. Everybody's just going live stream with IRLs and doing the whole, Kai Cenat type of thing and I show speed type of thing. So got to test some new things out, because StreamYard has been StreamYarding last year and it was kind of disappointing at times. So I'm gonna look into something else different here. Atlanta Falcons Fandemic said like, comment, and subscribe. Everybody, this is gonna be a different draft season. Lots to talk about.
Can't wait.
Fandemic, we're definitely gonna get you back
Thank
on the
you.
channel too as well, man, because you talk Falcons football in a way that fans definitely need to hear. So we got to get you back on the channel too as well
Definitely,
this season.
pandemic.
And
Definitely.
Terry, I'm sure for my ATL Sports, if he hasn't had you on the show yet, he will definitely get you on the show too as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, Miss Carrie, I mean, we do thank you for joining us here tonight. Saturday, the Falcons make you feel a whole lot better with the Jimmy Lake situation.
Yeah.
And you said it in the chat too as well. So do you want to give a shout out to anybody on the Falcons for doing their job? No.
Yeah, no, seriously. I want to shout out, obviously, you, Jack, UT Will, Bodie. I want to shout out everybody in the chat. Like you mentioned, like, thank you for always supporting us and, hearing us talk Falcons football. Really appreciate you guys. And thank you, Terry. I appreciate that. I try to be positive and good vibes, and you got to remain positive, especially when it comes to Falcons, because if not, you'll be pretty miserable, like especially with how things have been going lately. So it'll all be worth it one day. When we win that Super Bowl trophy, it'll all be worth it, all the hard times, honestly. So all that to say, I do want to shout out our head coach, Raheem Morris. I don't know if he was backed up against the wall. I don't know if maybe Arthur Blank told him it's you or, your buddy, the DC. I don't know. All I know is I just want to say shout out to him for putting the logo. Like I mentioned, I think it was the last show we were talking about it. I want to see if Raheem is taking this serious. If somebody has to go and a change has to be made, are you going to make an uncomfortable decision of putting the logo, the team as a whole, above just one specific relationship, whether it be, how we saw through the season with Kirk Cousins or maybe Koo not benching them, IR, what have you, or, the coordinators. So I really appreciate and I salute to him for putting the logo above his friend, his friendship, because we know he has a past friendship with Jimmy Lake. So all that to say, I'm excited for the future. We got our QB1, and I'm really hoping we get a good DC in here with DC experience in the NFL level. So
some would say he might bring in another one of his friends for the defensive coordinator position that's open right now.
And I don't mind it being a friend. I don't.
He's friends with everybody.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't want to get that a little mixed up. It's not that I don't want it to be a friend. It's just I want it to be somebody who has defensive coordinator. Yeah, defensive coordinator. Past experience at the NFL level. Jimmy Lake never had that, so he was taking a gamble. Yeah, it felt as if he was doing his buddy a favor, and I mean, no disrespect, but it's like he was, like, oh, I got the head coach job. Let me pick like my friend that's never had the opportunity. I feel like sometimes people might do that, and I'm not trying to bash him for doing that, but it didn't work out, so it was a gamble. I felt like, from the jump when Raheem got hired, I was excited. I am excited. I want him to succeed. But I feel like he didn't set himself up for success. It was a gamble by not at least having one of the coordinators to have the experience. He went with 2 rookie coordinators. That's pretty bold move there. So all that to say, yeah, I don't mind it being his friend. I just hope that they choose somebody who has done this before, who has the experience at that level in the NFL. That's my thing.
Well, there's a couple names that I think Falcon fans have been throwing out there for the past couple hours that we did talk about tonight, and I'm sure throughout the week we're going to talk about too as well. Another name that we just want to put out there quickly for Falcon fans. Let's go ahead and just drop this banner real quick. I want everybody to see this person. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Ready? Terry, you ready?
I'm ready.
Here we go. Dennis Allen. From Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
Of course, he has experience in the NFC South going up against these teams for quite some time. But yeah, this defensive coordinator / former head coach of the New Orleans Saints is a name that, I have seen in the Falcons community since Jimmy Lake has been no longer here with us. Jeff Ulbrich is a name we mentioned. Steve Wilkes is another name that we mentioned. I think some people had mentioned the coordinator from the former defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
Who was there before. So there's some people to look at. I mean, you see King Richie in the chat. Dennis Allen defense was legit. Wallace Smith is in the chat saying, I'm looking for them to get Steve Wilkes or Dennis Allen as our new defensive coordinator. So there's some people here who has called for Dennis Allen too as well. So we'll see.
I just want to say that our GM Terry will never beat the allegations if we bring in Dennis Allen. Because you know how they always try to joke and say, well, I don't know if people joke. I take it as a joke, but people try to joke and say that he's like, secretly still like, part of the Aints and, he doesn't have our back. He's just like a spy almost like he's employed by the same. Yeah.
They say he's Hell Hydra.
Yeah. Right. So I'm like, if we bring him, he's never beaten allegations. I wouldn't be mad at it. I mean, he has roots here. Obviously, he's from here. He has experience as a DC, even has head coaching experience, but it kind of sucks. He's another, former New Orleans Saints.
At that point, nobody would want to beat the Saints more than him, I think, in that locker room.
Right.
That's a good point.
I think he's a good DC. And what I just actually looked at his past coaching experience, and is this correct? It says Atlanta Falcons defensive assistant 2004 to 2005. Is that correct?
Dennis Allen?
I did not know that.
Yes, Dennis Allen.
Yep, it says it right. I'm going to pull it up. I had it right here. I just had it up too. Yep, defensive quality control coach from 2002 to 2003. Defensive assistant from 2004 to 2005. He also coached for the Saints, Denver Broncos, Oakland Raiders back in the Raiders' time, being out there in Oakland. Won a Super Bowl with the Saints in 2009. Of course, he's been around the NFC South for quite some time. So fans are like, hey, let's see about this guy,
My only concern is that Saints team lost respect for him. And it goes back to last year when Jameis pulled that BS. You don't respect your head coach. That's just the bottom line. You don't do something like that unless
but
go ahead.
He will. You already shot me down for having Jameis Winston as their backup quarterback.
Never. You're right. You're right.
So we won't have to worry about that, It'll be okay.
Look, I'm not saying you can't bring him here. It's just in the back of my mind. And maybe, to be fair, maybe it's recency bias. He has had some very good defenses, and he would be motivated to kick the out of the Saints. So, there's pros and cons, but just in the back of my mind. But you're right. I did give you grief. Because I never want Jameis Seamus here. I never want him here ever.
I can see that moment. Dennis Allen is our DC. The game is out of reach in New Orleans. We're kicking their butts, and we're not telling the guys to lay off a little bit. And you know how to get to like garbage time in the NFL, like when you're beating them by like 20, 30, and you're kind of just letting them just drive up the field so they can do stat padding. You see Dennis Allen telling his defense, "Sack him again." But coach, you told us not to sack him. Oh, no. Sack him again. He gets all upset. Derek Carr back there, sack him again.
You
put a bounty on some of the players.
You make them remember the night they played the Falcons forever.
Okay, I'm with Wallace Smith in the chat. I think it was, I forgot who it was on Twitter who actually proposed that exact thing that he's mentioning here. Bring back Ryan Nielsen as a D-line coach, and then
possibly the defensive coordinator position in the NFL is the job that a lot of people want. And Ryan Nielsen, there was times here in Atlanta during a couple months here. I'm sorry, for a couple of times here in Atlanta, there was some people mentioning that Ryan Nielsen could be the next head coach if Arthur Smith was to get fired. But I'm sure you guys saw what happened. Ryan Nielsen went down to Jacksonville, and they're going through a couple changes right now too as well. So it's possible that maybe Ryan Nielsen could be a name that is brought up in this candidate search again. I'm sure fans wouldn't be mad if Ryan Nielsen came back. for
Yeah,
another year here in Atlanta.
he had the defense buzzing, and it wasn't as good of a roster as I feel as we have this season. So,
Yeah,
I would like to see him back, and plus he would have ties with Dennis Allen, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah. And I mean, like Eric Parker says, nobody had a problem with Nielsen. He came in here, he did his job. He put these players in a good position when he walked out the door to say, "Hey, your new defensive coordinator should take over from here." And we saw what happened. But if he was to go back and if he was to come back to Atlanta, I'm sure Falcon fans would definitely feel good about that. Whoever the choice is right now, somebody just pointed out in the chat, some of these names that are being brought up, these are some really good candidates, right? So they're not like the bottom of the barrel candidates. And don't forget, in the next couple of weeks after the Super Bowl, there's going to be a lot more names too as well. A lot of teams haven't done their evaluating process of who they want indoor and out the door.
right.
So we'll see over
That's
the
a
next
good
couple of weeks.
thing. That's,
Yeah.
this is great, the timing of this for the Atlanta Falcons, that there are so many great, well-known names out there, to
Mm-hmm.
choose from.
Mm-hmm. Even for the Patriots, for them going for Vrabel, they kind of knew they wanted Vrabel because you're not waiting until after the Super Bowl to wait for any more interviews or any more. Heck, you went to go. You're literally about to sign this guy probably this week, and he's the next head coach after you just let go of Gerard Mayo less than a month ago. So you kind of already wanted Vrabel. I'm sure they probably worked up something behind the scenes. The type of owner Robert Kraft is, I could see him saying, "Get rid of Vrabel." And the funny thing about it is, somebody pointed out today on Twitter, when the Patriots go 3-14 next season, watch them keep Vrabel.
They
Right,
will.
like they're not gonna have no problem keeping Mike Vrabel, but Jared Mayo, of course he's out. Don't know where he's gonna end up. But Brian Flores, I'd love to hear. I don't want the Falcons to go hire somebody quickly, and then there's some big name candidates that come out right after the Super Bowl. Like if Brian Flores throws his name out in March, I would love for the Falcons to say, "Hey, let's go and interview Brian Flores." You
For
seen
the
his
D
line of work?
coordinator, you're not gonna leave. So if you leave a D coordinator position, it's for a head coaching, right? You're not gonna leave the Vikings to go to the Falcons for the same position, would you?
I mean, Ryan Nielsen left us and went to the Jags.
Yeah, but that was different. His head coach was fired. I don't think they're gonna fire Kevin O'Connell. The
No,
Vikings.
I don't see that happening. But then
Yeah.
some coordinators just want a new look. You never know behind the scenes. There was, let's just say the Rams beat the Vikings Monday night. The whole entire season goes down to Arizona and they get beat by the Rams, which the Rams, have been on a roller coaster season pretty much since week one.
Yeah,
But the Vikings, they've been fucking flying free since week one.
that's true.
But then again, if they lose to the Rams Monday night and their defense gets shredded by Matthew Stafford, maybe Flores might say, "Hey, look, want to test the market, see how it is." I mean, there's a lot of coordinators we don't know in the next couple of days who could be a candidate. It's good to know that we can throw some names out there, though.
That's true.
Right? So that's actually pretty cool. Steve Wilkes, Jeff Ulbrich, Dennis Allen. It's pretty cool that those are the first three. Now, don't forget, the Falcons haven't thrown no names out yet. These are what the fans are talking about. That's why One Time for the Fan is from the fan for the fan. The fans are talking about Steve Wilkes, Jeff Ulbrich, Robert Saleh, Dennis Allen. And if that's the names that the Falcons are looking at, those are some pretty good candidates. I got no problem with it.
Give me your top five, Jack and Kerry. Give me your top five.
Kerry, I mean, right now that would be just those four names right there, unless you're going to add on. Where is Schwartz now? Where's Schwartz? Is he in Philadelphia?
Jim Schwartz, yeah, I think he still is.
That would be a name to look at too, as well. But he's not leaving Philly.
He's not going anywhere.
Brian Flores would be the name to look at. The Denver Broncos. I remember that year we went to go get Richard Smith when we went to the Super Bowl, and fans were like, "Who the hell is Richard Smith?" He came over and he had our defense looking right with Vic Beasley and Freeney. So the Denver Broncos did a good job this year. Who is their defensive coordinator? Is that Vic? Is that Fangio over there?
I think it's Fangio, yeah.
Who is the Broncos defensive coordinator? Let's go look.
I think it's Fangio. Is it not?
I mean, he got shredded today, but
I think it's Vance Joseph.
Vance Joseph?
Vance Joseph. You're
Vance
right.
Joseph.
Is he not with the Eagles or?
Vance Joseph. Yeah, there he is. Yep. Yeah, Vance Joseph will be a name I'll probably want to look at. He was on the radar, I think, recently for the Falcons, right? When he went for the last defensive coordinator position. So that's something to look at. Yeah, One Time for the Fan, we're gonna make sure we pay attention to a lot of this stuff right here.
I've seen on social media a few people shout out Brandon Staley. What do you guys think about that?
Brandon
I know
Staley from the
not as a head
Chargers.
coach, as a DC.
Oh no. I mean that Charger defense was on 10 at times. He made some calls, I think, as a head coach that fans would be upset about, but he wouldn't be making those calls as a DC. But then again, you got Raheem Morris there too as well. Two young coaches too, for the Atlanta Falcons. Brandon Staley, I could throw his name into the pot, but I wouldn't put him at like my number one candidate right now.
Yeah, me either. I think he's a good DC, but not a good head coach. He drove
Look
me
at Rex
crazy last
Ryan
year.
too as well, especially with him talking on air about the Jets job. Like these coaches really want to get hired out here. Like he even said it today when Vrabel might be the new head coach of the Patriots. He was like, "I can't wait. I wish they give me a shot to go beat him 2 times a year." Like he's even mentioned it on the air. I mean, he's interviewed for the Jets head coaching job, and now that our defensive coaching job is available, I'm sure Rex might even get a call for that too as well.
Okay, what about Lou I can't say his last name.
Lou Anamara or Anamaro?
Yes, Anarumo.
Anarumo. Just another name. Another name on the list. I mean, it's good that these are candidates. I want to hear the Falcons throw some names out. I can't wait to hear the first name the Falcons choose to interview.
So
sometime this week or next week.
What I like about Lou is like he's been in like the league, I think, as far as coaching goes, since over 10 years, 15 years. But I mean, he was the DC that took the Bengals to the Super Bowl. He has that relationship with Jesse Bates. I mean, that was his former defensive coordinator. Obviously, their defense sucked this year, but part of that is because of the Bengals front office not letting players like, DJ Reader and Jesse Bates leave in free agency. So I feel like he was kind of like the same thing with our situation. He was kind of the fall man. Somebody had to be let go because the Bengals had, one of the best quarterbacks, and they had a triple crown receiver. And it's like somebody has to go be a fall man for them missing the playoffs, So he definitely had to go, but at the same time, I feel like the talent wasn't there. They just don't have that talented of a roster minus Trey Hendrickson. But yeah, so I don't know. I think he should be in the mix, but he's not my top candidate either.
I mean, just to see that the Falcons fans are throwing out some really good candidates, that's good, because let's go to what the Falcons are going to be doing in Flowery Branch. Remember, I mentioned at the beginning of the show that the Falcons, if fans are saying these things, the Falcons should know these things, right? If the fans are saying Jimmy Lake is having a tough time at defensive coordinator and he's throwing the wrong coverages out there and he's got these players in the wrong position, I'm sure the Falcons saw that too as well. That's why he's not in the building. Fans didn't really cut up on Zach Robinson that much this year. I mean, Kirk Cousins was struggling, but Zach Robinson, maybe he had 1 or 2 games where people were like, why are we running these type of plays? But then again, Kirk Cousins had that decline too as well. But you saw the troubles with Zach Robinson had his first year. He got over it. Jimmy Lake, that was a struggle for him this year. So even seeing some of the players that they can bring in, Falcon fans are calling some of the players on social media who are free agents. Maybe the Falcons have that on their big board. And the same for defensive coordinators. If we're calling out names on social media, I'm sure the Falcons don't have to go look at X, Y, and Z on Twitter to say, oh, this is going to be the guy we interview. Raheem and Terry should have those names on the wall, especially right now with the defensive coordinator position. I think Raheem should be on the phone with Steve Wilks. One way or the other, between now and Friday, you got to give a call to Steve. He was at your camp last year. He saw you. He hung out with you guys for just a little bit, randomly. Out of all days of the week, here goes Steve Wilks at camp, and fans started to speculate, what is Steve Wilks doing here? What does he got to do with the Falcons and Raheem? Well, a year later, now the position is open, and fans are calling for Steve Wilks. But the one thing about this fan base, too, as well, don't let Steve Wilks come in here and have one bad game. Oh, they want you out. They want you out. Who we playing next year? The Dolphins? Don't let Tua come in here and throw for 275. They want you out. This fan base is tough. Pandemic said, what do y'all think about Jerry Gray? I mean, Jerry Gray, the OG.
I don't think he wants.
I like Jerry
I think he just
Gray,
loves being a secondary coach.
I know. Yeah. I love him.
He's just low key. He likes working with AJ. Like got Jesse Bates, got damn near the number 1 safety with back there with him. You don't want to see Jerry Gray go. right?
No, not at all. I was
Because then it's
happy
like,
he stayed when, the new coaching staff came in. I was nervous he would leave too, but I'm glad he stayed. I
hey,
put the photo in the chat of Steve Wilkes at camp. I don't know if you have access to it, but I did put it in our chat. If you want to show it on the screen, I don't know if you're able to, but
what is it now?
a picture of Steve Wilkes when he was at training camp at Falcons training camp this past off season. Just in case you wanted to show everybody in the chat.
In the one time for the fan chat, I think she's talking about.
I'm going to get to it. I'm going to get to it. I got to go into my secret data, my secret vault to get it.
Secret data.
I don't want nobody to see it.
Secret data.
Falcon fans, hit that like, hit that share, hit that subscribe button. 1 second.
You're right, Keith Simmons. That's exactly why I felt there was change coming, because he was non-committal to Jimmy Lake, which to me, that's his friend. And, if he's non-committal, that it was the same vibe he gave us when he was kind of non-committal about Kirk. And then we got the change at quarterback, soon after. So I do agree with you that he did display the displeasure about defense.
Let's see what we got here. Go Steve Wilkes. Oh yeah, hold on. I got you, Carrie.
Okay, cool.
Hold on, right here. Yeah, even in this picture, he looks like he wants to be the DC.
He's like checking out the talent, right?
Carrie, he's looking at the defense like, oh, I can't wait to take over these guys next year. Falcon fans, that's Steve Wilkes at Falcons training camp last year, taking a look at his new defense. I'm just playing. I'd love for Steve Wilkes to be in the building. I mean, he's a mastermind at disguising these blitz coverages. And he stands on business as a defensive coordinator. But like Kerry said, and a lot of these other fans have said in the chat, he's an experienced defensive coordinator. He's been in those situations in the red zone where you need a guy like him to call the right adjustments and reads for these players at the right time, putting them in the right situation defensively on first and second down. Of course, he's had his ups and downs as a coach, but when it comes to some of these names that we're throwing out there, experience-wise, and can get the job done, I think fans would be glad to have a guy like Steve Wilkes. And don't forget about Saleh too as well. Saleh's had his runs here in the NFL with some solid teams, and I understand he might have been fired as a head coach.
Mm-hmm. I would love him, but I honestly have him as I feel like he's pretty much the top candidate, I would say, but at the same time, I just don't even have him in my mind because I feel like he's almost like he's unavailable. I feel like he might get a chance at head coach, or he's probably heading back to the Niners, or he might even go to the Patriots, you think? Maybe he'll be the DC over there. I don't know, but I feel like he's the top candidate, so.
Hey, throw these names around, Falcon fans, because we're going to be here to talk about it on One Time for the Fan. We did our shout-outs 30 minutes ago, but we're still here talking Falcons football because that's what we love to do here on One Time for the Fan. It's from the fan, it's for the fan, it's for real. We want to let you guys know that we can talk Falcons football for hours. We enjoy this. We love it. And, of course, we'll be back Wednesday night at 8 to do it again, talk some more Falcons football. And we're working on a special guest to bring to you all. I guarantee you that this year is going to be entertaining for all the Falcon fans who watch One Time for the Fan. Kerry gave her shout outs. Terry gave his shout outs. Let me go ahead and get mine in here. Shout out to every Falcon fan in the chat, every Falcon fan who rocks with One Time for the Fan. Keith Simmons, Ricky Smith, T. Terry, Wallace Smith, Lisa Shepard, everybody, man. There's so many fans just can't name right now, but just thank you all. Hats off to you all. You guys are an amazing group of fans. Continue being great. Wednesday, we're back talking Falcons football again. Big shout out to Bodie. It's cold these past couple of days, so we gave Bodie a couple of days off. But tomorrow morning, we got some customers lined up to get these cars detailed.
I knew it.
Get these cars detailed. So big shout out to Bodie 3000. Big shout out to all the other content creators in the community. Keep doing your thing. Christy Lewis just jumped on saying, hey fam. Christy. Big shout out to Christy Lewis.
Shout
Wallace Smith said, Great show once again, man. I'm telling y'all.
Shout out to T. Terry. You're so nice. Thank you. I appreciate
Everybody in the chat, like y'all bring a positive vibe. You just want to just talk Falcons. If I didn't get to your comments, I apologize. We have so much time to talk Falcons. Bring the comments back here to the channel. T Will for my ATL Sports. Head over to his channel. Make sure you guys hear what he has to say because he's probably going to be live tomorrow, Tuesday, sometime Wednesday morning. They do a lot.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Right now it's
T.
10
Will
o'clock
is
right
putting in
now.
that work. I mean, you got to support him.
Carrie, let me tell you something. One time for the fan working, T Will is working out here for my ATL Sports. So you might even catch a podcast at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning.
Don't start that. Don't start that.
anything.
You guys had me crying when you were talking about how Terry's in the bed.
I mean, how Terry's in the bed doing one time for the fan, the night shift.
I was
fans that's awake after 2 a.m. go ahead and
Mrs. Wilson. Hey, Mrs. Wilson would not like that.
Heard it's 32 degrees outside, and just want to talk Falcons.
You guys had me dying laughing last time with that.
You'd see T. Will get punched. Mrs. Wilson would not be happy about that. I can tell you that right now. She would not be happy about that.
Hey, you gotta get Ladarius on your show, man. You know he comes in here bringing that trash talk to you, man. He ready for you next time y'all get on that show, man. So big shout out to Ladarius.
Shout out to Ladarius. He's awesome. He's on Beer Gang.
Ladarius will be on the show tomorrow. You know, Ladarius just likes to give me a hard time, man. That's just, you know, that's our thing, I guess. He just likes to stir it up, you know.
No, that's what it's about, man. You guys have a fan for the Atlanta Falcons team that everybody needs to definitely show up to your podcast and hear. Ladarius keeps it real. You keep it real. So continue doing what you're doing. T. Terry's in the chat. Great show, beautiful people. Big shout to T. Terry.
Thank you, T. Terry. You're so nice.
Continue being the greatest Falcon fans ever. Wednesday, Terry, Carrie.
8 o'clock.
At 8 o'clock. It's one time for the fan.
I'll be here.
Ladarius is also a writer, Jack. A lot of people don't know that. Ladarius is also a writer.
Really?
Writer. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very good, man. That's what's up. That's what's good. You got a strong team over there at for my ATL Sports, man. Plus, you know, Ladarius, his platform.
We're trying to be like one time for the fan, man. You know what I mean? Look it. What does Raheem say? The standard is the standard. We're trying to be like one time for the fan, man. You know, you set the bar high. So we're trying to get
what we do over here is the same thing y'all do. Y'all just keep it real, continue chatting up with the fans, and continue repping these Atlanta Falcons, man. Don't give up on this team. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man, definitely not.
Rise up, Terry.
Yeah. Rise up.
Sorry. Rise up, Terry. Rise up, Carrie. See y'all Wednesday.